Hey there guys, Lazo here. Something a little bit different today. And no, it's not just the Hong Kong action cinema music that is the change. Today's Let's Play is not really a Let's Play. Today's Let's Play is more of an experience. And please stop throwing up for a moment. I know that was awfully art house language, but bear with me. Because it'll all make sense. Because today we're going to be playing Dear Esther. This is the Chinese Room full HD conversion remake of the popular Half-Life 2 mod, which is a rather weird one in that it was designed to be a self-telling story, if that makes any real sense. I'll explain more as we go on. Open the intro. As opposed to the outro intro, what the fuck are you going on about?
And how many visits I have made overall.
Walk like a crab. Makes it more epic, you see.
The landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself
My God,
to
that's
actually
pretty.
see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind
Instant flashlight.
across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing
Great for
my
most
step
people,
and
terrible for
plummeting down
ninjas.
to sea.
Probably ninjas up there.
Besides, I have always considered that if one is to fall,
Toilet.
it is critical to
Don't get
keep one's
excited,
eyes
Abby, I'm not going to be
focused.
flushing it. But yeah, okay, let's do a quick bit of scene setting. Ooh, what's this? Map of Great Britain, represent. Okay. Ooh, cooking, the traditional Wolverhampton way. Clearly whoever designed this has never actually been to England. Wolverhampton not renowned for its culinary expertise, shall we say. Rather renowned for its rather redundant amount of fried chicken places. Formulae, luminous paint. A lighthouse, which I can't go up. That I'm disappointed by. Immensely disappointed. What's this? Some sort of symphony or concerto or... No, it's a certificate even for something. Okay, basically let's get this out of the way. The way this game works is not really a game per se, it is an interactive story. Go to certain locations in certain sequences in certain ways will trigger random little info blurbs from your main protagonist here. Your protagonist will recite one of three things. Either his own thoughts, feelings and reactions to whatnot, or he will recount the exploits of a bloke who washed up on this island, much like yourself may have done. Much like you yourself may have done even. Or he will quote from a stolen library book, penned by a chap named Donnelly, which details the descent of a man into addiction and withdrawal from society. Now the game will randomly decide at the beginning which of these three narratives it's going to tell you, in what order, and in what way it's going to tell you. It will not always tell you the same story twice. In fact, you'll also get random game things happen that will not happen, well, they will happen for certain storylines but not for others. They will sometimes occur completely randomly, they will not be linked to any one storyline. And at other times, there will be events that will happen purely based on whether you happen to be looking at a certain object or not within a certain time frame. So yeah. I say it's very pretty. This is a full HD conversion, as I've already mentioned, pushing the source engine to its absolute limits.
Your mother told me a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums just to enable you to deploy your talent.
So her name's Dyson then?
Faded by the time you were 6.
Or is that the wrong type of vacuum?
By the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure.
My God, Esther is Pac-Man. It all makes a terrifying kind of a sense now. Yeah, you know, I've been to the actual Hebrides, which is what all of this scenery is based on. It really is this gorgeous. That's slightly random. You get a little mist of the salt air as well. You know, the offshoots and tossed up wind vapour from the waves actually being blown into shore. It's a nice touch. Very nice touch. I don't think many games bother to do that kind of thing. And the music is gorgeous. A lot of violin work and the occasional haunting operatic solo. It's beautiful, man. The entire game is beautiful. I mean, look at this. It's gorgeous in every single bloody respect possible. But yeah. Where was I? So yes, what you just saw there, one of the many cryptic ways it'll refer to the character of Esther. Esther will be one of several things depending on which story the game has chosen to show you. She will either be a relation or a potential lover of the dead man's diary you're carrying around, a chap by the name of Jacobson. She'll be the lover or relative of you yourself, or she'll be the daughter of Donnelly, the chap who penned the book about addiction and withdrawal.
A wonderful sight. The moon cresting the junction between the cliff path
Apparently
and the
Patrick
stone
Stewart doing voiceover.
It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach, all the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
Okay, that there was supposed to be an excerpt from Jacobson's diary. Now, well, as I assume it was anyway. Again, depending on how this narrative plays out, we may have only just arrived, or we may have been shipwrecked here for quite some time, just like Jacobson himself was. You'd have to go quite a bit further, well, yeah, actually quite a bit further into the game before we know.
Died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice. They cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid, or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this. To keep any would-be rescuers at bay.
Mini Stonehenge?
The infection is not simply of the flesh.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that one, whether that's supposed to be our dude or whether that's Jacobson. I think it might be our dude talking about that one. Which I think implies that he's been here for quite a while. Or at least long enough to have read through enough of Jacobson's diary to know how the other shipwreck survivors tended to react.
We feel no particular need to turn back. There's nothing to be seen if we did.
Yes, he's definitely our dude.
No tired old man parting the cliffs with his arms. No gifts or Bibles
That
laid
dude
out
up there?
on the sand for the taking. No tides turning or the shrieking gulls overhead. The bones of the hermit are no longer laid out for the taking. I have stolen them away to the guts of this island, where the passages all run to black, and where we can light each other's faces by their strange luminescence.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. Sort of like an undead rave party. Marvellous. But yeah, this dude's got issues. No matter which version of the game you end up playing, this dude has issues. Let's just put it that way, shall we? Make our way down this lovely little path.
Dear Esther,
here we go.
I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My
Yes, definitely our dude.
Small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
Okay. This version of the story, Esther definitely dead.
Unable to find that point where the hermit
Also, by the way, just to clear up the confusion early on, Paul is a car,
a sodden blanket,
and our dude is quite religious.
To stop the leak and hold back the ocean. My neck aches from staring up at the aerial. It mirrors the dull throb in my gut where I am sure I've begun to form another stone. In my dreams, it forms into a perfect representation of Lot's wife, head over her shoulder, staring along the motorway at the approaching traffic in a vacuum of fatalistic calm.
Yep, there's our dude again. Wonderfully depressing kind of a guy, isn't he? You wouldn't really want him at a party. Fuck. Well, that's new. Yeah. All the scribblings on the wall, by the way, are formula for fuel, air conditioning and brake fluid, and you'll occasionally find diagrams for the workings of an automatic brake system. Again, you'll figure out why these have any relevance or why they're being drawn as we get further into the story. You'll notice the weather is slowly changing. It's getting darker and cloudier and more stormy. Again, the depths it will go to in terms of the storms and stuff will depend on which version of the story you get generated. So I think, again, I love this thing. I think it's a nice touch. I mean, I said this during my very brief mess around on Slender, but I really love this sort of story-driven kind of stuff. It's gorgeous. Goodbye, boat. You will always be my best friend. Okay. Splish splash, I'm a dick in a bath. A little disappointed you don't get the splashing noises.
I've
Actually,
become
yeah,
convinced
no you
I'm
don't.
not alone here.
I
Even
knew it,
though
I did see a
I'm
dude
sure
earlier.
it is simply a
New
delusion
random
brought
event?
upon by circumstance. I do not, for instance, remember where I found the candles, or why I took
Candles?
it upon myself to light such a strange pathway. Perhaps it is only for those who are bound to follow.
Now that I think is supposed to be an excerpt from Jacobson's diary. Pretty sure it's, let's say he put the candles there. Whether or not they should already be lit, again it depends. Did we get here shortly after he's died, or if we just relit them and we don't remember, we're just walking around the island in circles? It's all open to interpretation. More formulae? What the fuck was that? You guys hear that? That weird sort of gurgling, well, drowning kind of a noise. What the hell was that? Scary as shit, that's what that was. Fucking hell. As I say, random generator. The music, the story, even the sound effects and, you know, events are at least semi-randomly generated. Certain things have had to be, you know, pre-scripted to make sure the story does actually make sense, but the way it comes together and the interpretation the game offers you, all purely random. Purely random. Though all of them, at least all the ones I've played through so far, do come to the same logical conclusion. Oh god, backwards. Because you know, why not?
I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome break services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Yeah. Okay, again, this part of the story is usually the same. There's been an accident. This guy was involved. It was obviously a car accident on the motorway. Now, whether Esther was a tragedy of that crash, or whether he's just using her as a sounding board to express his feelings about that crash, again, we'll find out as we get further on. It'll depend which one of the possible narratives she ends up part of. Is she actually part of this dude's life? Is she someone from the other guy's life? Is she Donnelly's daughter? Again, change completely depending on which version the game's generated for us today. But in either case, he will always do these things if he's penning letters to her, describing the accident, or at least his reaction to, his attempts to understand how it happened, to find the crash point, his morbid fascination with it.
It's only at night that this place makes any sluggish effort at life. You can see the buoy and the aerial. I've been taking to sleeping through the day in an attempt to resurrect myself. I can feel the last days drawing.
That's where we're going, by the way.
There's little point now in continuation. There must be something new to find here. Some nook or some cranny that offers a perspective worth clinging to. I've burnt my bridges. I've sunk my boats and watched them go to water.
Speaking of, one of the many shipwrecks on the edge of this island. Again, as we go further into the game, you'll start to wonder, do any of these shipwrecks actually exist? Does this island itself even exist? Or is this just him meandering around in a daze, imagining it all? The shipwreck being some sort of metaphor for, you know, his state of consciousness. Something that should be, you know, paddling its way through the waves and the turmoil, but is beached and unresponsive, dead. A husk that no longer functions as it should. Yes, my degree was in psychology, how could you tell? Right. Go through my mini tunnel, because it's just kind of cool to do, really. So I've got no idea what I'll be able to see, if at all. I can't plan this. Even though I've played this game before, I can't plan it to try and show you guys, you know, cool stuff. Because there's no guarantee it'll even be there. Oh god. I love this though. It's something I've always gone on about during my Let's Plays, isn't it? It is a purely story-driven game. There is literally nothing else to it except story, interpretation, analysis. Bloody marvellous is what it is.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
Again, that could be taken as some sort of deranged mumblings about how people got stranded here. Or it could be him openly admitting that he's got a bit of a screw loose. And he must do, otherwise why would he keep hallucinating stuff? Salt wind. Beautiful. Very abrasive to his skin if this is all real. He could have come out of this looking like some sort of prune. A tasty, salted prune. Human jerky, in fact.
Stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic.
Ah, there we go.
Your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Okay, so she's definitely someone who was killed in the crash in this version of the story, and she's someone he knew personally. Awesome. Now, how will she get tied into Donnelly's story? And what will Jacobson's stuff be, if anything? I mean, it is possible to have the storylines dropped if the game decides they don't match up to what else it's going to show you.
What charnel house lies at the foot of this abyss? How many dead shepherds could fill this hole?
42. It's the answer to the life, the universe, and everything, so it must be the answer to that question too. Fucking... I thought you had me, didn't you, Slope? Not a bit of it. Right, okay. I've defeated the Slope. You're doing great. And I can say that, Amy, because there is no way to fail this game. Absolutely not at all. In fact, I could go back and fling myself down that hole, and I still wouldn't die. The game would just reset me a couple of steps. God, it's so pretty. Yeah, I'd love to get like a house, you know, in the real Hebrides, get a house out here.
I've begun to climb.
It'd be beautiful.
Away from the sea and towards the centre.
So peaceful.
It is a straight line to the summit, where the
if I'd have a dude follow me around doing awesome piano too.
Squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
Probably someone must be doing keyhole surgery on sheep, that's kind of weird.